Welcome to a survey of management theory and applications. In this lecture, we will go over proper and improper management techniques. Specifically, we will go over management techniques which are merely palliative or techniques which are mere workarounds and do not address the underlying issue versus management techniques which are curative or techniques which heal and rectify the underlying issue. So let's go over what palliative precisely means in the term palliative management. The modern connotation or meaning of palliative in palliative management is the following. A palliative act is an action that is intended to alleviate a problem without addressing the underlying cause. In other words, palliative acts are acts which make a problem seem less serious without solving the problem or making the problem disappear altogether. The denotation or the underlying meaning of palliative is from the etymological root of palliare, that is to cover with a cloak or conceal. It springs from the idea of spreading a palliare or cloth over a coffin with the intent of hiding the dead body. So palliative acts etymologically mean acts that cover or conceal the underlying problem. In the etymological context, we're not supposed to hide the dead, but to heal the dead, resurrect the dead, or put an end to disease and death. We will go over in detail all the areas of life where misguided leadership engages in palliative management techniques in a detailed accompanying video on good and improper management methods. Now we will go over good and improper management techniques in various industries and sectors. The first subsector is that of pain management in the medical industry. The reason why we're going over this particular subsector is because it is used as an example just to illustrate further the idea of palliative management. Presently, pain management is mostly palliative. Pain is managed through the use of anesthetics and painkillers. The idea is to cure pain, particularly chronic pain or long-term pain, as opposed to engaging in masking of the symptoms. Now we may ask ourselves, what is the root cause? Why do we merely hide the symptoms of pain as opposed to curing the pain? One of the root causes might be an uneasy body part sending pain signals to the brain. So as we know that if a body part is hurting, it sends pain signals to the pain receptors in the brain. Now there's an obvious solution to it, which is to heal the body part. Unfortunately, instead of healing the body part, we have workarounds that we use in the form of painkillers and anesthetics, which merely block or desensitize the pain receptors in the body. So your body part is still unhealed. It's just that you no longer feel the pain. So the solution must be clear by now. It is to heal the very body part, right? And we may ask ourselves at this point, why? Why don't we heal the body part directly? Why do we come up with this workaround of simply blocking the pain receptors in our brain? So the question we may ask is, what is preventing us from implementing this solution, the real solution, right? And we may come up with a hurdle to why we don't implement a real solution. And the hurdle might be, as a society, one too many people are simply overwhelmed with pain, suffering, disease, and lack of ease. When people are injured or suffering or in pain and crying out for help, they have reduced cognitive abilities. At this point, the healthcare workers only want to reduce the pain and suffering. So after calming the patient, they may move to deeper things later. That might be one of the rationale behind using our present palliative management techniques. It is that our healthcare systems, one too many of them, not all of them, are simply overwhelmed. So one major hurdle is that healthcare givers are outnumbered by patients. So the obvious solution is that we manage populations and the environment so that our caregivers outnumber the patients always. The solution is to manage the population and ensure that there are always backup dedicated caregivers who outnumber the total number of citizenry at any given point in time. Unfortunately, these caregivers can also succumb to disease and pain. The hurdle is that human caregivers, even if they outnumber the patients, are likely to get infected themselves and fall sick themselves if the disease is contagious. At this point, human caregivers and the healthcare system is likely to become overwhelmed. The solution, of course, is to have automated backup robotic caregivers. These backup caregivers would be self-healing and far sturdier and more resilient and reliable, and they would outnumber the citizenry, which exceed or equal human carers. However, there are quite a few people who may disagree with this solution. There are people, unfortunately, who believe that the way to reform is through punitive measures or through afflicting pain. So there are people who are quote-unquote guardians of society who are not exactly guarding or protecting society, but they use pain as a way of managing people. They afflict pain upon others who may disagree with them, since these misguided folk use suffering and pain to reform, humble, and change people. A solution, of course, is to recommend to these quote-unquote caregivers or guardians that the right way of reforming a people is not through pain and not through suffering, but through a holy spirit, a wholesome and healthy spirit, and a wholesome and holy environment, which is giving people a holy interior and exterior. Now, please note that we may apply this sort of reasoning process to other categories as well. But at the same time, all of this is written in a cursory manner and is not an in-depth evaluation. The author and narrator is simply not learned and insightful enough to go in depth on some of these issues touched upon in these presentations. And even if the author has a lot to say about certain areas, a brief slideshow on management techniques or do's and don'ts is not going to be a proper venue for a thorough examination. Uh, Hence, these topics, most of them are simply out of the scope of the presentation.